Hey, so I'm going to try something different today where I'm going to try and do a more regular stream about editing OpenStreetMap where you can have like a little picture-in-picture as I kind of figure out what's going on, and you can also see my screen. And so first, I'm going to be editing a few different places, but if you're just getting started on OpenStreetMap, first learn osm.org, it has some good tutorials, and also try to start in your hometown. There's going to be a lot of detail there already, and you know the area pretty well. For example, I was walking through this area of New Haven, and I noticed they had a new roundabout, which isn't really reflected on this OpenStreetMap area. So earlier today I did the edit. It isn't really reflected in the map yet, but if I click on this other tile layer, you'll see that it ended up getting saved, and pretty soon it'll be on all of the OpenStreetMap based maps. Today I'm going to be focusing on this area in Myanmar that's close to the Chinese border. I've been looking particularly around the Chinese border because due to the Belt and Road program, there's a lot of economic development. Things are kind of changing very quickly. There are a lot of people living there, but there aren't really good official government sources of data. So a lot of the go-to things for OpenStreetMap where people like volunteer or they download some data from somewhere, it's just not available. And so a few minutes ago, when I was trying to demo the stream, I ended up connecting this town to the rest of the road network and drawing a bridge over to here. And so now it's connected to the rest of the global road network, but whoever had done some mapping here before stopped mapping at this point here. This is like the end of their road. So I'd like to continue that road and see where it's going and what I can add along the way. Another thing to note is I'm looking at the most recent imagery, like from Maxar. So if I look at this town here, um, I've drawn like a little residential area around the town where it exists or in the modern day. But if the people who were drawing this previously were probably looking at Bing maps. So originally they had drawn a much smaller residential area, and that also might affect where they drew the stream previously and uh, what might have motivated them to stop drawing here. They might have said, hey, it doesn't look like there's anything there. But, fast forward, there's some pretty good quality imagery. I've kind of peeked up ahead, and I know they have some different towns that we're going to be connecting. So yeah, I just grab the end of this road, and I keep it going. If you're in town, you want to be very specific about where you place these nodes so that you don't cross a building. But in these different more remote areas, you can be a little bit more casual. So yeah, this road goes right past the town. That's pretty common. So I'll just click escape to stop drawing that for a second. And I'll draw a residential area around this area where people are living. So I click on area and I just kind of fill it in. There isn't anything really helping us with this other than the imagery, but just imagine you're doing like a land use map where something either has to be residential or farmland or forest, and this kind of covers that whole area. Now there are other people who go in and they'll draw all the individual buildings. There's just so many different towns that people can work on that I typically haven't been doing that. Also for future mappers, I'll draw that this exists as like a thing that crosses the stream. So people can pick that up. I don't know whether this is like a road that a car would go on, so I'm just going to put a path. And because it crosses the stream, they're going to ask me if there's like a bridge. And it looks like there is over here and over here. Out of abundance of caution, I'm just going to make the bridge cover both of the stream as it's currently drawn and as I see it here, because they both seem to have some coverage. And then let me see if there are any other like major exits out of this town. Yeah, like so this road here that comes out to the south, there are a few different ways I could connect it. I think kind of the most prominent exit seems to be this way. So I'm going to just leave it here as a footnote, but people are going to see it and be able to, like, or even I could come back and like continue it. And then this entry to the town kind of looks like this. And then it also connects back over here. See, after drawing, when I finish drawing, I hit escape, and then one of my commonly used features, like residential road, will be right there. All right, let's keep this guy going. So right click on the node, and click the little plus button. And you know what's north of this is the Chinese border, like a really long distance, so I'm probably not going to reach there on this recording, but it gets us closer to having that figured out. And then this connection seems kind of interesting, so I'll draw this road here. This is where the person stopped drawing the stream. It's also interesting. Anyway, I'll draw this road like this, and then label as residential road. There's certain like standards in different countries for what's considered a path, a track, and a regular road. Like I think most parts of the U.S., any dirt road you would consider to be a track, because it's not as unless it's like specifically gravel or something. But in other parts of the world, it's more common, and it is like their town right here. So I feel like residential road is a good description. And I can see two different ways that roads kind of leave here. One goes up here. And one exits out this way. You don't have to see, like, there's a little bit of tree cover here. So you're like, oh, do I know for a fact that this connects to that? But look, nothing else is around. They didn't build a road to nowhere and then a road to nowhere on the other side. So I always, always, always assume if it's a small enough thing and nothing else is around, then you can go ahead. It makes it very difficult to do towns, though, because really anything could connect to anything. But in this case, we're just doing these little output lines here. And then, oh, I didn't do residential area yet. So I click the area tool again, fill it out as best as I can. I feel like these larger buildings are probably not houses. Like off to the side, a lot of these, there's some type of larger building, which I imagine could be like it could be a commercial area, it could be like a religious area. The thing is, there's just not a lot that I'm going to know from this view unless, you know what I do see in Myanmar sometimes is like the stupa of a pagoda. And if you're familiar with the area, it has a very distinctive golden, like pyramid kind of look, or golden spire kind of look, and you're like, oh, okay, well that's definitely the Buddhist stupa there. But yeah, let's just keep this road going. There's like other roads branching off, but this is, you can tell, it's kind of bigger than the other roads. I feel like this is going to go somewhere, and there's going to be other towns along it. Like there's every road, there's like an intent that someone rightly or wrongly thought this is going somewhere, or there's going to be big trucks on this, you know. Since there isn't as much around, we're going to zoom out and be a little bit less precise for a bit. Cover some more mileage. Quickly draw this area. It's kind of interesting splitting off point here. And if I had drawn the stream, probably I'd be doing the bridge there as well, but I'll leave that for a different time. Ah, this is interesting. It kind of splits. What I'm going to do is I'm going to consider this to be its own road, because I don't even know how far south that road was going before I started on it, right? So let's just kind of start this road here and connect it through my endpoint. And then it keeps going north. And for these kind of gradual turns, I put at least 3 dots or 3 nodes so that you can kind of cover it. There's some like really large turns because I think that it's difficult to get it right on a dirt road. You want to make sure that the trucks have some good traction there. I don't know, I might regret having gone this way instead of the other way, but let's see. So basically, you just follow these forever. Like, think about it, roads go on forever. So either you'll run into something else, or you'll discover you're way far behind. Like, there's definitely whole cities I found here that aren't mapped, especially in China, where it is like technically illegal to use OpenStreetMap. Uh, Not for us, but I mean internally. So kind of difficult there to find some places. This is interesting. It's kind of getting more and more rural, I feel like, this road. But see, here's a good example. I can't fully see what's going on with these roads. If I wanted to, I could look at Bing Maps, and sometimes they have really good or different angle, and so it makes it easier to see these roads don't connect until they reach the town. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that. I want to get right on the nose with these ones. But yeah, let me end drawing this one and go back to that big fork in the road. So this one I'll call minor unclassified road. I was going to call it residential road or something like that, but I went out too far in the woods, I think. That it's unclear what kind of road this is. If I zoom out, I might be able to see where the border is relative to this. So we're here, like roughly in the center. And the border, oh, the border's still up there, a ways away. Let me trace back to the split. I should probably also make sure to get this area here. There's definitely some residential improvement over there. So let's grab that. And then this one, I'll zoom in a little bit more for accuracy. Let's keep this one going. I think the latest thing I saw from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap was there's between 1 and 2 billion people who live in areas that are essentially unmapped. I mean, there's probably somebody somewhere who has like labeled the different city names and town names around the world for like you know, British explorer times or something like that. Or there was like kind of like a soft power time for a while between the Soviet Union and the US where they were kind of reaching out to different countries and helping them, map stuff. Um, so I know for a fact there's some countries, not necessarily here at all, but there's some countries where when they're doing humanitarian mapping, they go and look at the old maps, and especially for like landmines and things like that, they'll go and look at the oldest like Cold War era maps to find stuff. Here, this road, I think again, I chose one that kind of trails off. Oh, well, here we are. Here we've arrived at the border. This is good news. And so they're actually usually on the Myanmar side and China side. There's often two roads that fall alongside. And so this looks like one. It's hard to tell. Do these actually join? Like, could you drive from this road to that one? It doesn't look like it, does it? Let me switch over to Bing. Of course, Bing has the cloud there. What about Esri? Yeah, I feel like there's not a way that you would. Let me go back to Maxar, sorry. I feel like there's not a way you would drive up here in like an actual, like not an actual vehicle and then turn onto this road. So let's just label this as a minor road. And I think it's interesting this continues onward. This might, like for all I know, these could be like restricted access because they end up following the border for a while. It's a little weird because people say stuff about, oh, a border is kind of imaginary. These roads are very conscious of where the border is and not to cross it, and everything is kind of structured that way. Yeah, this feels like this is probably the Chinese side because see how it goes kind of to great lengths to stay on the Chinese side. Let me double back to, this is a long way to go back. See where this ends up. Now, eventually what I would want to do is come back in here and not necessarily draw all the buildings myself, but get in some of these smaller roads that go onto farms, um, that could potentially connect one road to another if you're more local. And one reason I want to do that is because there isn't just this road. There's like a lot of interest in people there, and so you would want to make sure that if someone did come around and look up their village on OpenStreetMap, that there would be a good starting point for their stuff, and it wouldn't just be this kind of jaggedy highway running through them. For why it's doing this kind of curve, I think that I forget if I talked about this already, but there's like a switchback strategy for if you're going up through a lot of uneven, steep terrain, you're going to have a lot of these different curves back and forth. Okay, here we go. This one now is reaching the border. Let's see if there's a connection or just kind of avoids it like we saw on the other one. Oh, this is interesting. So this is a crossing right here between Myanmar and China that the road is completely, like none of this is on the map. So let me go ahead and draw it ending, this road ending here. And imagine living in this village where technically you're like half and half here. Like there's a lot, it's interesting to think about that. And then I think this is the, yeah, this is the border road. Oh, it goes to some other stuff. But this is, again, the border road concept. And again, it's doing like a really tight hairpin turn switchback kind of thing, so that larger vehicles can handle the whatever the roadway is here. Even if it is paved, it's probably going to be paved over like a previous unpaved road. So would you like think about it, if you're paving a road, would you like build another trail through the jungle again, or would you just kind of pave over the existing stuff? I'm not a civil engineer, so maybe there's motivation behind one way or the other. But yeah, let's definitely. At some point, I have to save and close the session, so let's just kind of label this as a residential area. I mean, there could be something else going on here, like there could be some more organized border control, but I don't see like a large. Usually, what you see at like the major crossings is like a large archway kind of thing over the road, which I imagine is like an all-weather customs inspection area. This is residential. Let's go ahead and mark this one so someone will go and look at it. Because I think that's kind of what you're doing. Like, imagine that there's like an AI or a volunteer army that's going to come through later and provide detail. They just don't even know where to look. Like, I had no idea this border crossing was here. And imagine you've crossed this border without like going through customs. I imagine that as whenever this connects to like a major residential area, there's going to be a more significant presence. Okay, I think this one's too far off the mark, so I'm going to undo and fill this one in. And let me just see, do I think this is going to end up going somewhere? Like, how long is this zigzag path before it reaches something more major? Or something that's already drawn? All right, well, it's something I would definitely want to revisit later. Like, there's definitely a lot of untraced stuff here, but let's leave it where it is, because we've already discovered something really interesting, which is this seemingly insignificant, but significant to someone who lives here. This very weird border crossing. Now, another thing is the borders vary between different map providers, and so like on Google Maps and on like Chinese maps and Burmese official maps, the border might not be drawn directly through the middle of this. Um, it's really difficult to say um, like what's happening in practice, but definitely having so I make sure in my work I'm not ever connecting with the border and not ever moving the border. I'm just kind of observing there are these different roads that people have already kind of built in real life, that just following this road that we were looking at earlier, clearly they believe this is a borderline. They're working very carefully to make sure that this road only briefly, if necessary, crosses over from the east to the west. So traffic is in some ways controlled to go through that particular crossing. But yeah, let's save this and then just, I'll come back to this later sometime. Saving and done.